Commissioner Sullivan is here. Mr. Wallace is here. Colin Wallace, just identify yourself, and you'll be here on behalf of R3. So the meeting is called to order, and we'll open up for public comments at this time. Anybody may address the Solid Waste Management Authority on this one subject, and after receiving recognition, you'll get 3 minutes. And I think, Karen, you have a little stopwatch there, and she'll make a gesture when you're getting down to your 3 minutes. We'll give you a little bit of extra time. It seems that we have a lot of people here tonight. The question was brought to my attention about letters people have brought, and with some consideration, we'll allow letters to be written. If someone wants to come up and read one letter, again, we're going to try to stay within the 3 minutes. We want to give everybody their right to have their opinion heard at this time. So the public comment and will be on input to the R3 Consulting Group relating to their tasks in the assessment of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority. So I will open it up at this time to the public. If you've not already done so, please identify, come up to the dais, and we may begin. And if you would like to give your name to Karen ahead of time if there's other people who wish to speak, so we have some decorum and order as we move forward. So Karen, who is our first speaker?
Janet Gilbert. Do you want my address?
Your name and city would be fine.
Okay. Janet Gilbert, Del Norte County.
Good, thank you.
Regarding the Solid Waste Management Authority, I appreciate the recycling containers at both the transfer station and the fairgrounds, the friendly staff at the transfer station, trash containers and recycling containers side by side throughout the town in the parks, dumpsters provided at our beach and river cleanups, and the free drop-off of the invasive weeds. I've brought hundreds of pounds of tansy to the transfer station. I especially appreciate the increase in what can now be recycled. I like that the city and county are working together. I like that the waste recycle stream is overseen by a local government staff, while the work of collecting, sorting, transporting is contracted out to private enterprise. Government works for the public good. Cleanliness is a public good. The Solid Waste Management Authority and staff work for the public good, and the public should pay for their services. It is difficult to put a public good into private hands. If you divorce the private from the private's interests become much more narrow than the public's interest. In the scientific community, experiments must be replicated in other labs to validate results. In the business world, accountant books must be monitored by independent auditors to verify their veracity. Our governments have built-in checks and balances, both within and between branches, and with we the people. Likewise, the Solid Waste Management Authority working with private companies is a good model of a public-private partnership. Local private jobs are created while quality assurance is managed by the public for the public's good. The community vested in itself directs its staff to promote our community values of cleanliness, thrift, and environmental stewardship. The only change I look forward to is to increase again our repurpose and recycle stream and reduce our waste stream, not to restructure or dismantle the authority or its working partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Angela Glore.
Hello, I appreciate the chance to come and talk about this. I think it's
Please
important.
state your name and where you live. Thank you.
Sorry. My name is Angela Glore. I live in Crescent City, and I appreciate the chance to talk about this. I think it's an important issue. I enjoy going to our transfer station, and how many communities can say that? Ours is clean, it is well organized, the staff is friendly. Every time, no matter what the weather, they come out of there and they have a smile on their face and they are friendly and helpful. I have twice been reminded that if I'm bringing household trash, if I bring recyclables as well, my rate is lower. Now, if this was a private company and that is the change that is being suggested, I think there's no change needed. The changes that's being suggested is that that portion of our waste stream is privatized. I don't see the reason for it, and I certainly don't see that a private company would have any incentive to provide that kind of service. Private companies are fine. They have their place. They make our economy boom in many ways. But their job is to make money. Recology provides an excellent service. I have only had 2 problems with them in all the time that I've ever worked with them. They do a great job with their recycling. They do a lot of recycling education, and I applaud them for it. However, their job is still to make money. And the portion of our solid waste authority that manages our closed landfill and monitors it and makes sure that it is still safe is not a money-making venture. It should not be entrusted to a money-making private company. Their job, again, is to make money, and there is a place for that, but our solid waste authority is not the place for that. We need that to be a public service that is, the interest is the public good, not profit.
Okay, thank you very much, Angela. Next speaker.
Next speaker is John Parmentier.
Good evening. My name is John Parmentier, Del Norte County. I am in favor of maintaining the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority as a public entity. There's a question between whether things are being done the least expensive way or the most responsible way possible. I think that maintaining the Solid Waste Authority as a public entity will ensure that things are done responsibly. I had some dealings with the authority when I was working for Walgreens. We'll talk about batteries for a moment. You may not know that it's illegal to throw batteries away in our state. A couple of reasons. One is just the Duracell batteries, lithium batteries are a fire hazard in the trash. Not only that, but when they get to the landfill, the chemicals seep into the landfill. The Solid Waste Authority partnered with Call to Recycle and provided Walgreens with boxes, and other retailers. They provided us with boxes. The public could come and bring their batteries to us without throwing them away in their trash. The boxes had free shipping. These are heavy boxes. A box that big filled with batteries, a heavy box. And so as a retailer, we were experiencing people coming into the store, which was really nice. It was an extra draw for business. And we didn't have to pay anything for disposal of the batteries because the shipping was free. They asked us whether our companies would like to pick up the program after the grant monies ran out. And when I brought that to my supervisors, the answer was pretty much a flat no, because it would be an increase of an expense. The other thing to keep in mind is that grants, this is what paid for this program, grants are not generally available to for-profit entities. They're generally available to nonprofits in the public sector. The authority, there's a notion of extended producer responsibility, and that says that the producers and the sellers of batteries have a responsibility to the public to help deal with the waste. And this, again, is something that a for-profit entity, this is going to cost money. And so there's a tendency for a for-profit entity to not adopt something like that, whereas the authority, as a nonprofit, is able to receive grant money, and it's just a responsible thing to do, to be able to deal with these things. The again, dealing with the disposal of batteries is a program that the private sector will not deal with, and exactly why the authority should remain as a public entity, because public oversight is more responsible than profit-driven motives. Another example that I had dealings with through Walgreens was sharps disposal. Sharps are needles and other various things. Diabetics use sharps. There's all kinds of injectable medications that are used, and they are also illegal to throw away unless they're in sealed approved containers. And there are only 3 places in the whole county that accept sharps. That's the transfer station, the senior center, and the Del Norte Community Health Clinic, all of which are public entities, by the way.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
Oh my gosh.
You can wrap up your thought, John. Go ahead.
All right.
We
Same.
want to give everyone an opportunity to speak, so when you hear that, wrap it up in the next 15, 30 seconds. Thank you.
Same basic situation. Walgreens wanted to have nothing to do with sharps disposal. And again, a case of the least expensive way possible is not the way to handle trash. What we want is the most responsible way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Michelle Driscoll.
Second time I've come before you, some of you today.
Give us your name and
My
your
name
community.
is Michelle Driscoll, and I live in Crescent City. And I've lived in quite a few other places, some other states and other cities in California. And I'm pretty familiar with what happens when the whole management of waste is fully privatized. And you just basically turn it over to thugs who make a lot of money, and there is no bottom line of ecological responsibility that I have ever seen. So when we have something here that does that, and people here who care about that, who have a commitment to that, I don't think we should quickly try to get rid of it. I think we have some system that's working really well. People have spoken to several of the issues I would have brought up tonight, but I will say I have MS, I have Sharps, thank God for the transfer station. I also find that almost every time I go out there, something else has been added to a recyclable stream that does not go into general waste and go off to Medford and get dumped. So last time I had some little coolers, little styrofoam coolers, and they can recycle now. They couldn't a year ago. Sometimes I come in with things that are used but good, and they're not thrown into the trash. So I feel like this system is constantly being upgraded and improved, and I hope we keep it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. And then if anyone's come in late and wishes to speak, please give your name to our clerk, Karen Phillips, so we
Joe
can get everybody
Romero.
on there. And who's our next
Joe
speaker?
Romero.
Hi, my name is Joe Romero, and I'm from Del Norte County. And I just want to thank you all for making this forum available to the public.
Joe, I'm just going to interrupt you just for a second. Be sure to speak directly into the mic. This is being televised. We want everyone's comments to be heard clearly. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you all for making this forum available to all of us, the public. So I was reading that the county already has over $2 million in liability for the old private landfill, which the county residents are paying for through higher garbage rates. And I'm concerned that if we have another private company running the landfill or running the transfer station, that we could end up in the same problem again. And I couldn't help but being reminded of the private banks on Wall Street making huge profits by doing all kinds of things that were getting the country in trouble. And when the banks turned south, the public was left paying for it all. So it makes me really nervous to think of a private company here at Del Norte County taking care of the public good. I'm not against private companies at all. I think it's very important, just like one of the other speakers said, but I also believe that there's a place for the public to take care of things like garbage, water, things that we all need and are essential to our essential services. So that's basically it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Next speaker?
Elizabeth Henry.
Elizabeth? And Elizabeth, when you're 3 minutes, if you want to take a letter and paraphrase it, you have a letter with you, that's
I have
okay.
a very brief one.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could. Okay. I'm Elizabeth Henry, a county resident. I've been here many times, but I want to tell you briefly why I'm here tonight. Though I've lived in Mendocino County and served on the Board of Supervisors for 8 years there and was a founding member of the Solid Waste Authority in 1990 there, it's Del Norte County where I really feel at home. My family moved here to Crescent City 60 years ago this year in 1954. I was 10 years old, so you can figure out the math, what I am today. But they built a family home on Pebble Beach Drive, 1957, and that's where I've come back to live. I love this area, and I'm concerned about what happens here. I'm here today to support keeping the current structure of the Solid Waste Authority and to ask that the position of director be filled as soon as possible. Some think that the job of the authority is finished. The landfill is closed, the transfer station is built, and recycling is established. A lot of progress has been made since 1993. What's left to do? The success story of the Solid Waste Authority was built from the ground up under the leadership of two talented and hardworking people and the dedicated staff that worked with them and a very supportive community and board. The 50% recycling requirement set by the state has been reached, and hazardous waste collection and many innovative programs have been established. The authority team is respected throughout the state and have advocated for rural communities by belonging to and leading statewide organizations. That's why, unfortunately, the forced retirement of the director is so puzzling to me. But we are here now. What needs to be done? I think the idea of dissolving the authority has been dropped, but privatization still looms. I'm going to quote Commissioner Wilson's statement. It was in the triplicate after the last meeting. There might be some scenarios or alternatives that are a combination of partial privatization while keeping the authority. The only scenario meeting the description is to replace the authority's administrative program and support staff with independent contractors, which is a recipe for failure and should not be implemented in any form. The appeal of employing an independent contractor is that many believe the contractor costs less because of savings to health insurance and retirement benefits. But contractors are also in the business of making money and may cost the same or more. What is certain is that the community will lose several long-term, good-paying jobs. Independent contractors are usually hired for task-oriented short-term projects, like what the R3 consultants are doing. Being under the direction of the authority board will not work for the long term. According to California's common law test, the most important factor is the principle to control the manner and means of accomplishing a desired result.
Kind of wrap up your thoughts, please,
The more
Elizabeth.
control the employer has, the more likely the worker is an employee, not an independent contractor. It could create a really murky situation. The future of effective and efficient solid waste handling depends on committed staff who live in our community. Just one last point. To look at the Solid Waste Authority, you can also look at a similar joint powers agreement, the Border Coast Airport Authority.
I'm going to have to cut you off, Elizabeth.
well,
You're
let
kind
me-
of going a little bit long. Can you wrap it up in one more sentence,
Yes.
please?
With, and that authority has two full-time paid employees that work for the authority. Would you want an independent contractor running your airport facilities? I don't think so. I think it's very important to have committed and competent and residential people running the Solid Waste Authority. So those
Okay. So I want to give everyone an opportunity
Okay.
to speak, time permitting. If you can paraphrase later, and we'll see how our time is going, because we have a lot of people here to speak, and otherwise we're going to be here well into the midnight hours. So let's go on from here. Thank you.
Don Gillespie.
Don Gillespie, I live in Fort Dick, and nothing so terrible about the midnight hour when you're listening to the public address such an item as this.
Point taken.
I support the Solid Waste Management Authority remaining as a public entity, not a private entity. And I've been to, I came here to actually to speak to the people who are going to be conducting the study. I'm surprised that they're just sitting in the audience and not up here where we can address them. But you know, this process has been going on for a long time. I've come to 3 or 4 presentations such as this, where well over 90% of the people who come up to speak are in support of the Solid Waste Management Authority as it is. It's a public entity that does a great job, provides recycling, a clean transfer station. It's been a vast improvement. And yet we keep hearing, oh, well, we want to see if we should privatize this. Oh, what a wonderful thing, privatize. You know, I think a certain amount of this whole process is actually a sham. It started by Supervisor Sullivan wanting to, having a problem with the authority and being opposed to people making a living wage, it appears to me. And we're trying to fix something that's never been broken. I'm a self-hauler. I've been hauling garbage to Del Norte County dumps for a long time, actually since 1947. It was always a big deal in our family to jump in my dad's old 39 Ford pickup truck, and off we go out to the dump, and that was in Fort Dick, or the old landfill. And it's nice to see some improvements. And I'm still a self-hauler because I live a long ways away and I recycle a lot, so I don't have enough to fill a garbage can every month. And I appreciate going to the transfer station. I appreciate the people. I appreciate the good prices that they charge. Usually the money I get from recycling pays my garbage dump fees. We had a private entity running our garbage system for quite a while. The Wakefield family for quite a while ran it, and they did a great job. But then I'm not sure who ran it after them. But we ended up with a cease and desist order on our landfill from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And I think we still have, there's a $2 million figure floating out there to put this whole thing to rest. That's what a privatization gave us the last time around. So I'm not sure what this board is looking for. You've got a perfect system. The community loves it. We've got great leadership. They've done a great job putting the whole thing together. And it's already 86% privatized. And what do you guys want to do? I mean, if you want to help this
That's your
community,
3 minutes, so go wrap it up.
leave Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please, Karen.
Robin Sutherland.
Good evening.
You are?
Robin Sutherland from Crescent City. And I'm here to read a letter from Susan Calla, who's got the respiratory flu and is not able to...
You have 3 minutes. Go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you have 3 minutes.
And so, but before I do that, I just wanted to say one thing. I used to work for the Inspector General's office for a federal agency. And I see the movement here of going on the cheap, trying to do things as inexpensively as possible. And I saw our agency go into these kind of situations, go, these are ready for problems. Let's take a look at them. And sure enough, 4 or 5 years down the pike, if you do not have knowledgeable people in place, you're just looking for trouble. So, as one of the trouble people, I want you to know that we looked at you hard. This is from Susan Calla, also in Crescent City. My home and property border the closed landfill. Due to my proximity to the unlined, decaying garbage mound, I and my neighbors have monitoring wells in our backyards. Every few months, a technician from Del Norte Solid Waste Authority comes onto our properties to test for emissions in order to determine if any toxic substances have escaped the garbage mound, gases like methane that could dissolve and seep into our groundwater and wells. Thanks to the diligence of the authority, which keeps me informed, the regular testing has so far reported only negative results for pollutants. I deeply appreciate that this level of responsibility being carried out by the authority in order to protect me and fulfill the state's legal requirement is to monitor and manage the site for 30 years. In the years since the landfill property has been closed, it has acted as a magnet for illegal activity. Although secured by a locked gate, vandals have accessed the property. I've had to report 2 fires set by trespassers. On a regular basis, illegal dirt bikes and ATV riders cut landfill fences to access the landfill property and the state park dunes that border it. The covered mound itself could be damaged and ripped open by this reckless activity if perpetrators are not stopped. Whenever I've called 911, there has been a 24/7 response from authority staff who are on emergency duty. They either show up themselves or law enforcement arrives on the scene within minutes. If the authority is privatized, Who's going to take on this enormous liability and monitoring responsibility for the remaining decades as required by the state? Management of our waste stream needs to remain public, where there will be oversight and accountability and not decisions based on profit motive. The board needs to recognize and continue the excellent standards and high degree of professional and quality service, security, and vigilance
Robin, I need you to wrap up your
that is
last
currently being provided by the authority for our community. End of letter.
Thank you very much, Robin.
Norma Williams.
Good evening. I'm Norma Williams, Crescent City. I'm also president of the Del Norte County Employees Association, SEIU 10-1. I'm here in support of the our union brothers and sisters who happen to work for the authority. One, I'd like to, could you make a note of the fact that they are actual union workers that have a contract, an existing contract? And anything that jeopardizes their livelihood is subject to that contract and could be in violation of Myers-Milius-Brown Act. Quite frankly, we've been at this so many times, and how much more do we have to go through? How much more does the public have to go through? I mean, it's like an old dog with a bone. You just won't let it go. There is nothing wrong with the Waste Authority. They are doing an excellent job out there. Quite frankly, as a single parent and a single income household, I've had to use the station from time to time when I've had to load and actually take stuff to be dumped out there. Because believe you me, when you have a little one that grows and grows and grows, they accumulate a lot of junk. And quite frankly, I have to clear it out. And I've had, on several occasions, I've had to have someone help me actually take stuff out to the station to dump it there. And yes, I've had to pay, but quite frankly, it hasn't been as expensive as I thought it would be. And at other times when they've had their battery pickups, even their metal pickups, when they've come into the trailer park that I live in, they've been very kind, they've been very courteous. They've even picked up extra items that they normally weren't scheduled to do and pick up in order to help me out, because I would tell them, hey, I just don't have the opportunity or the means to take large chunks of stuff out there. And they would be very kind and courteous and do it for me. Quite frankly, guys, I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but if it ain't broke, why are you trying to fix it? Why are you trying to change it? Why are you trying to privatize it? I have to agree with many of the people here. There's a place for the private industry and a place for the public industry. In this particular instance, we need the oversight as well as the commitment to the community. That's what the people at the transfer station do. That's what the Waste Authority does. And I think it's about time that you give them the respect that they deserve and so solemnly need, and let this old bone go.
Andy Larson.
Andy Larson with the county. I give the respect to anybody that put it together, and Ted and Kevin did a good job of putting that together. And an answer is this the best way to run it, is with a government agency? The county will be responsible. The resource code puts it there. The government will be involved with that dump. It can never be fully privatized. That's just the way the law is. I'm a believer that the board needs to still be involved with whether it semi-privatizes, there is your government oversight. The county does have that responsibility and will have that responsibility. The city and the county will have the responsibility of the dump. You're not going to get somebody in there that's just going to rip and tear and raise the rates and not give the service. You will have county and city oversight as far as the dump goes and as far as the trash service goes. And when I hear people almost saying that the privatized section that is running a lot of things now, they are doing a good job. They are picking up the trash. They're being helpful when they pick up batteries. That is a good program, and I'll give Kevin and Ted credit for the programs being put in place, but those programs have to be put in place. That is the law. The cost of doing the programs is free in a lot of cases. The county is a nonprofit organization, and therefore the grants can still be made. You're not fully privatizing the dump. You're not fully privatizing waste collection and transfer. You're almost fully privatized now as far as everything but the oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Next.
Ellery West.
Hi, I'm Ellery West, and I live in the Birch Tract. And I've been an entrepreneur for over 37 years. Do I believe in free enterprise? Yeah, you bet I do. The biggest problem with free enterprise is what economists call indirect costs. Indirect costs are costs that are not figured in a company's books. Indirect costs are not being able to find a parking spot in front of your house when a local business is crowded at your street with their vehicles. Indirect costs are not being able to go outside and breathe the air because somebody's burning trash upwind from you. Indirect costs, in a word, equal theft. Indirect costs are usually inadvertent. They're not deliberate. People aren't going out of their way to harm you, but it's a byproduct of normal business activity. Take the landfill on Old Mill Road. That indirect cost will steal from the people in this community for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Private enterprise is structurally incapable of accounting for indirect costs. Only when the people, through their government, put a price on indirect costs can private enterprise respond to them. And this is how it works, and this is how it should be. Take it for fact that if it wasn't for people working through their government, we would not have post-consumer waste collection as we do today. There's no money in it. Recycling post-consumer waste is a marginal and punishing business, and as it stands today, doesn't really begin to capture the toxins that are headed into our country's landfills every single day. Say a private contractor can provide trash collection services for a few cents less. However well-meaning, the profit motive and modern business practices will not allow them to capture the indirect costs in a way that public oversight will and can. Over time, as a people, we will pay more in environmental costs than what we'll save in the short government, but public oversight of our trash collection is an entirely appropriate purpose for government. I vote for our existing solid waste management authority. Thank you.
Gail West.
I'm Gail West from Crescent City. I agree that private enterprise can fall short of long-term public goals. Their profit margins and business paradigms typically don't allow for future indirect costs. Therefore, our existing system is the best available. Please keep it intact.
I'm a county resident. My name is Ron Placetti. I listened to these many of these arguments here, and I've come to the conclusion that efficiency can be accomplished by privatizing, and we should at least explore through the request for proposals what those costs might be and how they compare to the private versus the public sector operating this particular facility. has been my experience when the private sector ran it. It has been more efficient as a general rule, and when the public ran it, we were seeing 7% increases every year when we had it before with this other group of people. The Solid Waste Management Authority has not done a good job in containing those costs until people started complaining, and we have a new board here that's now trying to rein them in and get control of it. The efficiency of this, of the government is notoriously bad. We can look at the cost of a retirement, the cost of health care, the cost of everything that goes to a public employee versus a private employee. And even though you have a union contract, that can be negated in order to accomplish the ultimate goal, which would be to keep the tipping costs below the rate of inflation so people can afford to take their trash to the dump instead of dumping it out into the forest or out in Pacific Shores and other places that are inappropriate. We see some people mention some things about grants being written. Those grants typically are automatic grants. You make a request and you get the money. It's just filling out the forms. Another thing I like to mention is I see that there's 2.5 accounting jobs currently working in this inefficient operation. And you got a business that generates less than $1 million a year, I believe. And that to me, again, looks like inefficiency, and it could be reined in, and it needs to be, because I don't want to pay higher tipping costs. I have talked to several friends of mine, and we've done some analysis, and we thought we could see $20 to $30 minimum adjustment in tipping fees if we could privatize it. However, where I draw the line is all the existing services and everything that is being done, it should be duplicated in any request for proposal going to a private sector. That includes all the recycling and all the other functions that they've been doing, much match and equal to services. Where I believe the county could play a role would be to have somebody in county government be assigned the role of oversight that has knowledge, skills, and ability and training to do that oversight. And I think there's some qualified people in the county government that can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Next.
Melissa McDowell.
I'm Melissa McDowell.
Can you speak right into the microphone so it is being taped? Thank you.
Melissa McDowell, Del Norte County. I've lived here 7 years. I moved from Curry County. I've been recycling 40 years. And when I moved here, I was totally impressed by the transfer station and what they offered over there. I'm a self-hauler. I think prices are fair. The recycling opportunities have only increased, which keeps my trash level low and price low. The transfer center is just amazing, clean, well organized. I was just so impressed with the facility when I moved here. And now I wonder why in the world some commissioners and board members are having a problem with it. I don't understand that. They say they want to privatize, but the hauling is private. The transfer station, I believe, is run by a private company, private contracts. I think the oversight should stay with the authority to assure that it's best service for the public. I understand the closed landfill will be a responsibility still of the county, so why would we disband the authority which oversees that too? It seems like the transfer station and recycling is the one thing in this county that is working well, and it seems like a waste of time and money to pursue this inquiry. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Patricia
Next speaker.
Black.
Hi, I'm Patricia Black, and I'm a city resident. And I came here to tell you how impressed I have been by the way, solid waste management has been managed in this county. I've watched gradually over the years how it's gotten better and better and better. I used to have to take some of my recycling, like my junk mail, to my sisters in Oregon to recycle it. Now I can recycle it here, and she's tempted to bring some of her plastics down to me, but she isn't done worry. I'd also like to say that I've been really impressed with the way our solid waste people have connected with the whole state to bring benefits to our county, and how they've been able to deal with our rural values like self-hauling, and also how they've been able to support recycling so that we reduce garbage, and there's cost incentive to do that. For example, I use garbage bags. I don't fill up a garbage bag every week, so it's not cost effective for me to have a garbage can. If I had to have a garbage can, even though I'm passionate about recycling, I would be tempted to throw that kind of icky jar in the garbage instead of washing it out and recycling it. But with the bags, I have the incentive to recycle. And they've respected our small town way of being, where not everyone has good transportation, so that they've developed the programs that John mentioned about being able to take your sharps or your batteries or what have you back to the local store that you actually bought it in. As far as our ultimate goal being lower tipping fees, in my opinion, our ultimate goal is to have garbage or solid waste disposal affordable for everyone. But one of the ways to do that is to increase the recycling and have less to tip. And I think that's the direction that we're headed, and I think it's a really good direction. Just on a personal note, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, as a homeowner, as actually a landlady, I have to say that one of my values is for people in this community to have decent jobs with good pay and good benefits. And I think that solid waste has been providing that for some people, and I'm glad for that. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Tompkins.
Michael Tompkins, Crescent City. I'll give my summation right up front. Joint Powers Authority works. I have 2 great-grandchildren now, and I'm becoming more and more aware of the importance of the quality of the world that I'm going to be handing off to them, that we are going to be handing off to them. In a polluted world, full of dangerous chemicals and an economy based on consumption that ignores or abuses the ecology of that world, is not what I want to hand off to them. So the issues we're addressing today are very, very important to me. And I say that as someone who self-hauls as a business owner, who uses the new hazardous waste disposal opportunities, including the motor oil program, who uses curbside trash and recycling services, as well as the yearly yard waste and hazardous waste collection days. And when you compare this to the services available before the Joint Powers Authority began offering this long list of new services, both the free ones and the really inexpensive pay-for services we now enjoy, well, the improvements are really remarkable. There are probably a dozen possible ways to change the existing solid waste management organization as it now exists, and maybe some of them would actually reduce the overall cost to us users of those services. But if they remove this authority, they will remove most all the incentive for providing those services that do so much to protect and even improve the ecology, not just of Del Norte, which is an ecology, by the way, that is very, very precious, but for the whole region. And so for me, it's worth paying a little extra for. If, that is, it is actually costing us more. This authority is passionate. This authority is passionate about preserving the natural beauty of this region, about recycling. And I, for one, do not want to see this passionate and very clearly competent, by the way, competent agency eliminated. Since its inception, it has worked hard for the good of Del Norte County and for the good of its forests, rivers, beaches, the ocean. And as far as I'm concerned and as far as I can see, all that stands between the needs and values of us citizens and of course this beautiful place we live in, and a corporation whose prime motive is, of course, and must be, profit, is this agency. Any changes that are made must, in my opinion, keep this public service authority in place. Its work is not done. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next speaker.
I'm sorry if I get this name wrong. Ralph Johannesson?
My name is Ralph Johansson, member of resident Delaware County. With the exception of one, I agree with everyone who's spoken here.
Mr. Johansson, I'm going to ask you to speak right into that microphone.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Right. I want to start out by saying, in a broader context, that I read over the weekend that the largest, third largest industry on the planet is packaging, next to food and energy. And a preponderance of that goes to waste. I think that underlines how important what we're talking about here is. As a homeowner here in the county, in our 8th year resident here, the service we have received has been everything that we could wish for. I agree that it is expensive. I wasn't here when the decision was made, and I think this is an elephant in the county's room, but I think that the cost should be borne by every property owner, as it has been in every other community I've lived in, urban, suburban, and rural. And I don't understand. I think that should be reconsidered by this body. I think if your interest is in reducing public costs, that is a primary consideration for you. I'll just close by saying that I support the present setup, and I hope that you will retain it, and I hope that R3 will make plain and clear to the ratepayers here the structure of their study, how their conclusions are drawn from their study, and how the recommendation is drawn from their conclusions. Otherwise, I welcome the study, and I hope it lays this matter to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johansson. Next speaker.
Lathrop Leonard? Ruthie Rhodes?
I'm Ruthie Rhodes. I'm a resident of the mighty Hyuchi. And I apologize for our small citizens who are making some noise. They have no opinion at present on Solid Waste Management Authority, but I do.
That won't last for long.
I would describe myself as fiscally conservative and cheap. And so I appreciate ideas that could save us money, and federal employee who has experienced a period of time in which privatization was explored in the Park Service. And I came to the conclusion that that public safety is perhaps something that needs to stay in the entity of the government. And so I'm in favor of retaining the structure at present because I'm concerned about the safety and I think about the history of the landfill and the fact that without oversight, not only was our environment and our public safety jeopardized in terms of our public health, but also financially it was a disaster, and we're still paying for that. So although I appreciate the supervisors considering the importance of privatization, I really think that the evidence that the consultants are going to reach is going to be clear on this, and I for one am in favor of retaining the present structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruthie.
Leonard Lathrop.
Do a little tag team. You bring them up, Leonard.
Well, thank you for your patience. My name is Lathrop Leonard.
Lathrop. Okay.
Lathrop, yeah. I've lived in the county for about 10 years. I'm currently a resident of Hyuchi. And since I've come here, I've been really impressed with a lot of amazing things about our community here, from the beautiful beaches and the other natural resources that exist within the county. I hear a lot of people often, unfortunately, focus sometimes on a lot of the negative and a lot of the challenges that our community has. It's not as exciting sometimes to talk about that we're also leaders in unemployment, and we have other economic challenges that we face. And then there's the Solid Waste Authority, which I think, in my opinion, is an example of how we've been shown to be leaders throughout the state in reducing our amount of solid waste and increasing the amount that we are able to recycle. And they've been able to do that throughout the county at a competitive rate despite the economic challenges that our community has. And I think that's something that they should be proud of. Our response to that seems to have been 2 years of scrutiny of what they're doing that resulted in the firing of their CEO, and now apparently another set of scrutiny that's coming through this contractor. And so I guess I'm just still a little confused about why we need to go on with more scrutiny and more looking for problems where no problems have been clearly identified as of yet. And I'm all in favor of scrutiny. I think it certainly can be a very healthy way for us to find ways to improve using adaptive management and other methods to find better ways to get things done. But I would think after 2 years, if those ways were going to present themselves, they would have done so by now. So I have another thought. If we're going to continue with this level of scrutiny, there's another thing that I think maybe we should try to quantify, and that is how many man-hours and dollars have we spent not only scrutinizing what the Solid Waste Authority has been up to so far, but how many hours and tax dollars have gone into have the Solid Waste Authority had to spend in order to respond to the scrutiny, and how might those tax dollars and those man hours been better used within the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. I think, may I just make a statement? I'd appreciate no applause. I know it's an emotional issue, but if we can get everybody spoken for without the emotion and ism, I think it'll be more productive. So thank you for not applauding after each speaker. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Thompson. I live in Del Norte County for about 15, going on 16 years now. Oh, Solid Waste Authority, how do I appreciate thee? Let me count the ways. I used to take boxes of recycling to Arcata, to K Street, and dump them off there once in a while when I'd go to that area. I go and when I walk the dog in the morning, I pick up litter wherever we walk, and we often walk on Pebble Beach. And I've noticed over the years that there's a lot less styrofoam on the beach than there used to be. Styrofoam's a problem. It breaks up with the waves. Birds eat it, causes a mess. I was just thinking the other day that I haven't seen much styrofoam lately, and maybe that's partly because we can now recycle styrofoam, and I'm so happy we can recycle these too, and other things. And I appreciate the fact that the effort that the Solid Waste Authority has put into recycling, and added, now I have a recycling cart. I also have and appreciate the yard trimmings cart. I used to manhandle my big bunches of twigs, sometimes just not in anything, into the trunk of my car and take them to the landfill. Anyway, I really appreciate them. One other thing that I've just thought about is that if you should privatize and if you should sell the transfer station to Recology, for instance, they would be there forever, but contracts come up and there might be a local company someday that would do a good job and keep the money in the local area. I'm sure this Recology is doing a good job, but they're a huge company, and I think a lot of the dollars go out of our county. And so if you make it solid so that that can never change, that's not so forward-looking either. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Charlene Van Alstyne. I'm from Del Norte. I've lived here all my life. The question that I have is if things are working so effectively now, why have businesses' rate increases doubled? It seems that a lot of these costs have been put on the businesses, and that's not fair. Me personally, I've worked for a private company all my life, and it has been very effective because they are in it and they don't have extra funds to fund it. They have to make sure that their companies work. If it's cheaper and more cost effective to privatize things, then that's what we should do. Thank you.
Mary Beth Sampson?
Good evening, my name is Mary Beth Sampson. I'm just going to read a letter that I wrote back in June, to the editor. As a resident of Del Norte County, I am perplexed by some members of the Board of Supervisors wanting to dissolve the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority. As someone who does not make much money, it's the only place I can afford to dispose of my trash, brush, and other household items. At this point in time, the transfer station's rates are being regulated by the Nonprofit Waste Authority. If it were to become 100% privatized for-profit business, the rates, which would be unregulated, would surely increase. 3 county supervisors said the rates would decrease if it became privatized. Please explain to me how this is possible. For-profit means for-profit, that's the bottom line. This would make it very difficult for many residents to afford to dispose of their trash. I also feel that it may cause more illegal dumping around the county. The authority and the transfer station staff do an amazing job, and I feel that dissolving the authority would ruin one of the few things that actually works well in this county. I don't even understand why dissolving the authority is even an issue to begin with. Something smells fishy to me. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
Craig Strong?
Hi, Craig Strong, county resident. I have a letter here which I'm going to paraphrase since a lot of it has been stated well by earlier speakers. First, a thank you to the JPA commissioners and Board of Supervisors for getting some professional help in answering your persistent questions about the role and performance of the Solid Waste Authority. And to that professional help, I want to share that this episode in Del Norte politics has been a terrific waste of supervisors, commissioners, and the public's time. And we have already lost one of our most effective and intelligent public employees when the prior director resigned under duress. I hope you can bring this episode to a logical end. Now I'm going to skip down to one area that hasn't been touched on much, and that is one of the roles of the authority staff is to negotiate contracts with private companies for pickup and hauling and disposal of our waste. As you know, the Solid Waste Authority themselves receive just 14% of the income from our solid waste business to perform their public service. In negotiating the contracts, they secured the lowest residential hauling rates in the whole region, They required that haulers, Recology Del Norte, provide recycling pickup and meet waste reduction mandates, and they created a progressive rate reduction program for businesses so that businesses' rates go down if they increase the recycling component of their waste stream. A private entity, in whatever form, is in the business to make money, not to look out for the county and community, as authority has been doing in developing these contracts. So I think the rest of what I have to say has been said well, so I'll just deliver this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. Next speaker.
Dale Condon?
Hello. My name is Dale Condon. I lived in the county for a while.
What's your last name, Dale?
Condon, C-O-N-D-O-N. I'm just going to read this. I have had many dealings with the Waste Authority, all of them positive, informative, and in the best interests of our beautiful county. In my 43 years here, I've watched it evolve out of the cesspool of our former landfill to one of the most focused waste reduction organizations in the state, if not the country. Between the local growth of free public recycling and our personal habit of composting food waste for the gardens, my family produces very little garbage. As a result, we take our non-recyclables to the transfer station only several times a year. It is clean, well-organized, easily navigated, and very reasonably priced facility. As for my personal experiences with the Del Norte County Waste Management Authority, I have enjoyed working closely with them in the past. As a California Conservation Corps teacher and supervisors, I led crews in huge trash cleanup efforts on Elk Creek, the old abandoned mill site behind Safeway, and at Dead Lake, always with staff members closely directing our work. Later, while supervising a local AmeriCorps program, we had Corps members trained by the authority's staff to educate students in our local schools about used motor oil and other hazardous materials. I was also involved in other educational and informative fun events sponsored by the Waste Authority. These included the Crescent City Blues Festival, Earth Day celebrations, and their presence at the Aleutian Goose Festivals. Turning this well-developed organization over to a private business would mean trading the concern for the authority's mission and the community for the profit that might be had. This profit, the money in excess of expenses, will continue to be used to clean up the old landfill and the entire community if it stays within the authority's grasp. And in closing on that note, I can't help but reflect on the county's other current issue of privatization, Sutter Coast Hospital. I don't know what that means, but I'm just troubled by that. So thank you for your opportunity, or this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Condon.
Eileen Cooper?
Eileen Cooper, Del Norte County. First, the combined board that you have between the city and the county is fair representation, unlike our water districts. And so I think this is a very efficient collaboration where everyone in the community that produces waste is represented. Second, I think the administrators are visionary. They came to this town with a vision of zero waste. And baby step by baby step, we've gotten closer and closer and closer to that goal. To our schools, and to anyone who has a question about how they can reduce waste and where to drop things off. They're there for us to help move us towards that visionary goal, zero waste. And I think they've been pretty successful. They've established an enterprise in which things are retrieved and could be sold. I remember the early days of Del Norte County when I had piles of plastic bags that I had to sort through in my kitchen to look at for the microscopic number 1 or number 2. I don't want to go back to the days of number 1 and number 2. I like the days of we can recycle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kinds of plastics, styrofoam, and all this effort is really the result of the visionary reach that this board has had to help this community get to that goal. And it works, and I like it, and my rates are not excessive, and there are many alternatives for me, and they can help businesses reduce waste. Just with a little creativity that they can collaborate and help out. So I'm very pleased, and I know things will improve even more and more and more with this kind of effort that's been going on up to this point. So thank you.
Barbara Burke.
Barbara Burke, a county resident. I came to the county about 8 or 9 years ago to work for the Small Business Development Center. And for several years during that time as a business advisor and as a private business consultant, had the opportunity to work with Ted and others at the solid waste entity. I was absolutely impressed with their knowledge and skill about business efficiency operation, fiscal management, entrepreneurial efforts. We worked together to develop businesses for small business in our county to work with waste and the use of waste products that could be not put in the solid waste system. It's a very impressive operation. They were very, very helpful to clients. I feel like it would be important to keep this entity as it is. I also would like to not have privatization because I feel like it's one more arm's length to reduce responsibility and accountability to the public. Thank you.
Paul Dillard.
I'm Paul Dillard. I'm with the county. I'm a self-hauler. I've been involved in this waste management process for about 6-7 years. There's only a handful of people in this audience that I've seen in meetings. I'm going to take on the board here, but it's none of you. It's previous boards, so don't take this personal. You're trying to straighten this thing out. But the confusion has been all along. It is not the authority. The authority is the best thing we got going. They do a great job. This all started out about the board. We created a JPA in '92, city and county. Missions was to close the dump and figure out what we're going to do with their trash. That was done. This all came about, and Don Gillespie maligned Mike Sullivan because it had nothing to do with the people. It came about because you guys were getting $375 a month for an hour's worth of work. That's what brought this to issue. And Mike and Jerry Hemmingson brought it to the table. We created an ad hoc committee. We couldn't get answers. And it's all gone the whole way. We were told we weren't supposed to give a recommendation, then the very person that was on the county supervisor that told us we couldn't do that, then chastised us for not having a recommendation. So it's not about operation, folks. We got the best operation there is. I question whether we need this level of management. I think it can be done differently. I think it can be streamlined. I think Ted's job should be, and all his staff should be protected. And they should continue to do what they're doing. But they should get direction and management from some other, whether it's a county or joint county city, whatever. don't need you guys. You got a big enough job as it is, and you got plenty of committees to be on. And as for privatization, people talk about privatization. What do you think Hambro and Recology is? They're private. They're not county. The only thing that is a public entity sits right here with his staff. That's the only thing that's a public entity, and you folks. So, and as far as length of contracts, I may be off a year or so, but I've been. Hambro's got 2028 for their contract, and Recology's got 2024. I think that's a pretty lengthy contract. So what is there to do? I mean, there's other issues, state issues that need to be monitored, and Ted needs to have a go-to person, but there's got to be somebody other than you people. Now, one lady talked about coolers. She thought it was great that they did the coolers. Well, who do you think did that? Tommy Sparrow. Tommy Sparrow put that together.
Paul, I need you to wrap up your comments in the next 30 seconds, please. Thank you.
Well, it's hard to wrap all this up. Somebody talked about that at the till and the gate, and the authority gets only 14%, but it's a 33% at least. So, you know, this is not this thing needs to be resolved. The reason the confusion is because you guys allowed it to get into privatization. It was already privatized. You know, you caused the confusion. These people have been misinformed. I bless them for coming out here and showing an interest. There is a good thing about this. It's caused introspection to government. All government needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillard.
Vicky Dickey?
Hello, I'm Victoria Dickey. I live in the county.
And Vicki, I'll ask you to speak right into the microphone.
Do my best. I keep hearing how government handling has been so wonderful. My only question is, why are we missing approximately $30,000 from the till? The private companies are going to have a vested interest in being courteous and sweet at the desk. They're not going to change any of that if they are privatized. I am for privatization, just in case there was any question. I do resent hearing every time we come to a meeting, if you touch any of our benefits, we're going to sue you. Well, for crying out loud, what kind of an attitude is that? And that comes from every single meeting at the unions. And I don't think that I, as a private person, want to see you touch any of their benefits. They worked, they negotiated, they're entitled to those. But please don't be put off by the fact that they're going to threaten to sue you. People get sued all the time. All the concerns that I've heard here can be dealt with by contract. One of the concerns that I haven't heard very much is that we can't delegate away our responsibilities. No, we can't, but we can bond around them. I'm certain that R3 will come up with those kinds of questions, those kinds of answers. The problems that were here before were here for a long time, and we're picking those up. Many of the problems that we had at different dumps came from the fact that we didn't have the knowledge. In the 60s, we were still digging gas tanks and floating them to the top. Well, the 60s caught up with us, and it cost a lot of money to get things in order. But I don't think that that should be a reason to say that, well, it was all private that did it. No, we as a society did not know. By the way, the rates in Brookings, about a third less than here.
Thank you, Victoria. That was our last speaker. All right, I'm going to give one more opportunity for anyone in the audience who has not spoken to please come up and address themselves, identify yourself, and give everybody an opportunity to speak. We have 3 minutes assigned to each person, and I see you coming up, Mr. Lonsdale, so I'll wait for you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Bill Lonsdale, and I live in Crescent City. Supervisors have had a long day. You started at 10 this morning, and you're still at it. You have my sympathy, but we're grateful that you're willing to sit here and listen to all of us speak. I was also pleased that Paul brought us up to date on the history of this thing, and I was sort of gratified to learn that it's not the district that's under attack and that we want to dissolve, it's the board, or actually your predecessor board. But now when you all had a committee of 10 over that year in which stuff was supposed to be done and didn't get done, they served without a stipend. I don't know what the situation is now, whether you all receive a stipend or not. You do not. Then the problem is solved. And we can continue to march. I'm here to speak as a totally satisfied customer of Recology, a totally satisfied user of the transfer station. And I'm speaking in favor of retaining the district and you guys as is. And I'm the first one to speak up in your defense. So, the remarks that I would make are really addressed to the R3 representative through you. R3 received a number of very pointed questions that need to be answered in their study. And your board wisely put those things in there because these are the elements of information that you must have in order to make an informed decision about what to do with the future. Commissioner Wilson, some time ago, argued in favor, and I agree totally, of looking at a 10-year window rather than making some sort of a knee-jerk decision on anything. That's wise, and she was very smart to do that. And I'm not trying to butter you up, Mrs. Wilson, but thank you. The regulatory picture, what does it look like now and 10 years from now? The federal, state regulations are going to change. Your consultants will know, probably better than all of us, about what the future holds. And as they measure what the staff's job is and what it's going to be, and whether or not the staff is adequately constituted in order to carry out those functions, which are required functions, unless by some miracle we join the state of Jefferson and do away with all that stuff, except you'll never get rid of the feds, no matter where you are. These are things that have to be done. The question then becomes, where will they be done? We have a staff that meets the requirements now, thank you, and there's no reason really, in my view, to change it. But I have not heard the city manager and I have not heard the county executive stand up here and say, I'm ready to take on the job. They don't have the people to do it either, so where will it be done? These are all decisions you guys have to make based on R3's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And again, we'll give it one more, hold on, Elizabeth. I'm going to give everyone one more opportunity. Is there anyone here in the audience who would like to come up and address this issue? Okay.
Andrea Wadsworth. I'm an employee at Del Norte Solid Waste. I've been there for 6 years. I absolutely love my job. I've invited every one of you guys numerous times. This woman back here in the back stated that it's cheaper in Curry County. You guys need to come see the Oregon people. They use our site as well as Del Norte. We also have a Klamath outlanding site that ORC comes in. We have lots and lots of opportunities for several people. I do not understand why you guys continually put stress on our gate staff and our administration. We have been hawked on for 6 years now that I've been employed for a wonderful job that I do every day to please everyone, the majority of this staff. You guys have a paycheck. You don't think I don't worry about mine every day because you guys are putting the pressure on. You guys are all self-haulers. You're putting stress on us every day for continuing and continuing for nonsense.
We have one more speaker. Okay, Ralph, did you want to come up and address?
I'm Ralph Dickey. I am a county resident. She, by the way, is a good gate person, and I would like to see it go private, the gates for sure, and but I would like it I'd like them to be hired on as maybe leave them in the county as county employees and allow them to be contracted back to the private company. Because it was mentioned to me that a few of them are close to retirement, and that would really mess up their retirement. Well, I think that would be a good idea so that we don't want to destroy these people's lives if we can contract back for people like the gate staff. Some of the higher administration functions, well, that's just that's the problem with being in administration. As CEO of a company, you get fired or you get laid off, but there's other places to go and to find jobs for them in other places in the county. But the gate staff would be more efficiently ran as a private company. And also there would be less questions. They know how much money comes in, and the private company is going to be responsible for that if the county's cut, where if money is lost in the government entity, it's just money that's lost in the government entity. The biggest thing that's cleaned up this county is Dave Mason, not this authority. Through his efforts as the county, I guess title correctly, he's the
code enforcement officer. And Eric Taylor is the code enforcement officer for the city.
And he's cleaned up this county much more than the authority has done. So if the authority, he should be the one given the kudos for cleaning the county. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dickey. And again, before we close off the public comment, we have one more. Come on up.
My name is Rita Schmidt. I currently work at the gate. I am a resident of the county of Del Norte and have been for roughly 22 years. I'd just like to express that our site works as a team, whether we're at the gate or office staff. We all work closely together. We run efficiently, and I will share some of our duties. I was hired for the weekends. Under an extremely busy day, on the average, along with a coworker, I can process 700 to 800 customers who will always be greeted with a smile and an explanation and concern for questions they may ask. This brings me to the customers. Our customers feel that our rates are reasonable and sensible. Sensibly priced, they're happy to see us open 7 days a week. Also, having worked sister sites, they are also thankful for the ability to have transfer stations close enough to meet their driving needs. The topic I would like the Board of Supervisors to our curtain gate duties that do not reflect the county's job description. We have become more efficient in processing our customers, and on that note, I would like to describe myself as a task, sharing an example of our jobs. Part produce checker and part traffic control. It sounds funny, but we are responsible for every customer on site. We code the material and then we guide them to their proper destination. It would take me more than 3 minutes to give you a detailed site description of our facility, but those that have used our facility, I think you can relate. My personal concern is my job and my current age. It would be financially devastating, not just bi-weekly, but also my retirement. Please consider all of your processing of our future, for this is not just personal impact for our community, but it is for the staff as well. Our staff, whether gate or office, we're all a team. This is a job description. We put this together. We compared it to the existing job description that you have. And I would like to leave this for those who have never seen this. We do not have an easy job. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Again, one more opportunity. Anybody who wishes to come up and speak, this is your opportunity. Okay.
Hi, my name is Keith Estes. I'm a Del Norte County resident. I've been employed at the transfer station for a little over a year. I've had many customers over the year compliment our facility in comparison to the closest facility outside of our county. I've actually been told by customers that compared to Curry County, our facility is run with with more care, and I've heard that the rates are actually cheaper at our facility. Our facility is currently run by Ted Ward, who seriously cares for our environment and who is driven by his responsibility to answer to the public, whereas if privatized, he would be forced to be concerned more about the owner's bank account than he would about public interest. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Keith. Again, anybody else? You know what, Elizabeth, I'm going to defer to that. Actually, someone has to be here to deliver comments, so I'm going to decline your request to have letters written over. They need to be here to do that. So, and we've heard quite a few people. Everybody who's here has had an opportunity to speak, so I would politely decline that after checking that someone actually needs to be here to make a comment. So I'm going to close the public comments now at this time. Oh, we do have, well, you've spoken, sir. Actually, okay, what's your question?
I just have a question that may be for everyone's benefit. If we want to submit a written comment through the board to R3, what is the procedure?
I would say, Ted, I'm going to defer to you. Direct your comments to Ted, and then we can bring them up at perhaps a later time at another meeting and get it to the attention. If your intention is to bring it to the attention of R3, absolutely, that's most appropriate. So if that's what it is you want to do and get this input to our R3 consultant who's here tonight, then you would go through Ted Ward's office. Okay. And Elizabeth, that's what I would recommend you do also, is go through there. All right, so we're going to close off the public comments now, and I'm going to bring it back to the authority board, and I'm going to ask for any input from any of our members. And Commissioner Gastineau, we'll start with you. All right, Commissioner Wilson.
I was just
Commissioner
going to
Sullivan.
say maybe that we want to just give a timeline to the audience that's here in terms of response, what they should expect, dates and timelines for those that
Okay, and we'll have that, Ted, you'll wrap that up for us, and I just want to give our board an opportunity to speak. Commissioner Hawley, do you have anything?
Just very briefly, this is an excellent forum. I've learned a lot tonight. Believe it or not, we keep talking about it. I learn something every time you come to us. Keep in mind, I know most of you have seen the agenda, and on the agenda there's actually 5 items that we're having R3 look at. And 3 of the 5 really don't speak to privatization. They speak to the current operations. So this isn't just privatization versus the JPA. It may be capturing better ways to operate the JPA, and there's really nothing wrong with that. So this is a broad consulting effort that we're asking of R3, and I think it's going to be very beneficial to have an outside experts, I should say, looking at our operations. You can see that this is an emotional issue for the community, and I appreciate all the interest of those of you who came out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawley. As you can see on the screen, here is the timetable. Here's what we can expect. Obviously, tonight is January 28th, and we're concluding our public meeting. On February 20th, we will expect the draft report. March 12th, the authority will meet, and I believe that's going to be, yeah, it is March 12th. Our next regularly scheduled authority meeting will be on February 11th because of the holiday. But on March 12th, the authority will meet. March 19th, the authority will make comments. On April 3rd, we will receive the final report. And then that is our timetable. So what I would like to say is 33 people came here tonight to tell us how you feel. I heard a lot of fact, and I heard some statements which were not accurate, and I heard a lot of emotion, and I heard you speak from your heart. We listened, and we will continue to listen. We're not experts on this. That's why we bring in consultants, and that's why we bring in people who can help us come to this and finally put this thing to rest, and so we don't have to keep kicking it. So having said that, I'll be very interested to hear the R3 consultants who are experts in how they assess and answer the questions that we presented to them. So on that note, if any other commissioner has any other comment, seeing none. Ted Ward, do you have any further comments? Okay, then we will adjourn the meeting at this time. Thank you.